Hello everybody, and welcome to Haiku Talk. I'm your host, Ben Ga, your friendly neighborhood haiku poet. And in this episode, we're going to take a look at a poem from the latest issue of Frogpond, which is the Winter 2022 edition. And from a poem from Kelly Sargent called Campfire Sparks. So, with that said, go on ahead, grab yourself a tasty beverage, sit back and relax, and let's haiku. Okay, welcome back everybody. As I said, we're going to dip into the latest issue of Frogpond, and I have had this for a little while, but just been kind of waiting on it a little bit before I pulled out a poem from this issue. And tonight is the night that we're dipping in. This is a piece by Kelly Sargent called Campfire Sparks, and the poem goes like this. Campfire sparks, teenagers slip away. Campfire sparks, teenagers slip away. It's a very nice poem, very ripe for summer, as summer vacation is going to be looming here in the U.S. for teenagers all over the place here shortly. And this is a poem that speaks to me on many levels. One, the immediate thing, of course, I can imagine being a teenager and remember being a teenager and remember the slipping away around the campfire to go in a dark place with your special somebody for some smooches and whatnots. And it's a very fun, exciting time of life. And, you know, you only are a teenager once and you only get those experiences once, for good or for bad. Hopefully in this case, it's fond memories rather than tragic memories. But at this point in life, I'm in midlife. If you are thinking back on even the bad instances, they still tend to be more funny, more bemused than actual horror stories. But speaking of horror stories, the idea of a horror story theme definitely fits in this piece as well, because in the horror genre, that's where teenagers slip away, and that's when the murders start happening. But my initial thought goes initially to that time of life when you are a teenager and you're slipping away around the campfire to go do your things in the dark. But now that I am middle-aged, there's also a sense of, now, the poem is written from the perspective of somebody at the campfire watching teenagers slip away. And so now if that's the case, and that's the view that I'm taking here, I'm an adult. And so then you're watching teenagers slip away. And there can be a double-edged sword there. One, you could be a parent and feeling like, oh, you know, the teenagers go away in groups, not necessarily to couple up, but go away in groups because they no longer want to hang out around the campfire, the family campfire. You know, they're doing their own thing. They have their own lives, you know. And so there could be a little bit bittersweet there. Could also be that you are just, again, recognizing that your teenagers are at that time of life where they're going to have some adventures like you had when you were a kid, when you were a teenager. And that can fill you with all sorts of different types of emotions, I'm sure. But regardless of where you sit on the age line or where you sit with your perspective on this, I know in all aspects for me, I still can't help but smile, and I still can't help but feel, smell the campfire smoke, still can't help but feel what that feeling is like to be around a campfire in groups and having people slip away, be it myself or watching others. And all of that puts a smile on my face. And this is a very delightful, delightful poem. Thank you, Kelly Sargent. Let's go ahead and break this down line by line as we do. Oh, and before that, let's talk about the structure. We usually talk about how things are put together. In this case, it does kind of follow the fragment and phrase format. The fragment being the first line of Campfire Sparks, and the phrase being teenagers slip away. Take these, if you split the poem apart and you just have Campfire Sparks by itself, that's its own thing. If you have Teenagers Slip Away, that's its own thing. When you put those two together, that's when they really vibrate. That's when things happen. That's when sparks start to occur and you get that aha moment. That's when the real thing comes together. Now let's take a look at this line by line. So the first line, Campfire Sparks. Campfire Sparks. What a great line. So full of all sorts of senses. You've got the visual, you've got, you're smelling the campfire, you're feeling the air around you because it's dark, it's cooler, and you're feeling the warmth from the fire. It's just a really good sensual image. And it definitely puts you into one specific place. Because it's not just any fire. It's not like a backyard fire pit. It's not like a bonfire. It's a campfire, which is a very specific type of setting. And so if you've been camping, and if you've never been camping, you've seen enough TV and movies to probably still put you into a place where you're familiar with. And that's what the first line is really supposed to do. Hook you in, pull you in, and if it's the fragment, especially if you're leading your poem with a fragment and phrase, you really want to ground somebody in a place, in an idea, in something specific. And you can't get much better than Campfire Sparks. Now we go to line 2, and line 2 is a one-word line, and I love one-word lines. It's something that we can get away with quite frequently in haiku and senryu, which gets a little bit more difficult in longer form poetry, but we could do it all the time here, and when it's done well, it's done well. And in this case, that second line is the word teenagers. Teenagers. So it adds a little bit more to that, to where your setting is. So you have Campfire Sparks, and then you've got teenagers. So already I'm now not only am I put in a specific place, but I'm taken to a specific time in my life. Like I said initially, I was initially gone back to, on the first read, onto being a teenager myself. And so I'm relating to this right away. And so now I want to know what's going to happen next. So there's been a bit of a suspense now that's been built up. We have a campfire, there's sparks, there's teenagers. What's going to happen next? How is this moment going to close in on itself? And that third line, it's very nice. The third line is slip away. Slip away. What are the teenagers doing? They slip away from those campfire sparks, feeling the sparks, and they slip away. It's just very nice because it takes you out of the light. You have faces that you see around the campfire, because the point of view is not of the teenager, it's of somebody observing teenagers. That somebody observing them could be a teenager themselves, could be an adult. That's up to you, the reader, to interpret. But you're watching teenagers slip away. So you're seeing this circle of people around the campfire, all of these faces, and then you're noticing the teenagers are starting to fade into the dark. They're no longer there. So where there was a face, where there was a body, where there were bodies of teenagers, now they've disappeared. Now there's a hole in the campfire. And then you have to think, what happens after the slip away? What happens in that moment afterwards? Do people, snicker? Do you gather around tight around the campfire? I don't know. It's a nice thing to linger with. And that's what happens with this poem. After I get to that last line of slip away, it's a movement. You're in the present tense, but there's a movement away from the moment. People are leaving the moments to do other things. And you're left with that state of where there was once a full faces around the fire, and now there's less. And then we as readers then linger in that after the moment. And we are left after the poem with that smaller circle. And we fill in those spaces. And I definitely take pause. I definitely sit back, and I'm thinking about all sorts of things. And the poem is at a campfire. So, it's just ripe for rumination, ripe for reflection, ripe for thinking about days gone by, ripe for all sorts of feels and emotions. It's a really, really nicely put together poem. And again, thank you, Kelly Sargent. Thank you, editors of Frogpond. Again, it's from the volume 45, column 1, winter 2022. Frogpond is the official journal of the Haiku Society of America. I would definitely, if you're not a member or don't follow or never looked it up, take a look at them here. You'll be happy you did. Lots of good information. It's a really good organization. And that wraps up today's episode. Please like if you like this content. Think about subscribing. It does help the channel. And if you do like and subscribe, ring the bell so you'll get notified when new episodes take place. So thank you very much. Until next time, enjoy your sparks around your own campfire and watch those teenagers slip away.